Good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to be joining you all tonight to talk about next leveling your personal brand. I'm telling you that I have found no better way to really enhance your business, enhance your career, enhance a product or service that you are providing than really focusing on your personal brand. And so I'm excited to be your host. Want to thank Antoine for inviting me to do this. I always enjoy emceeing, hosting, speaking. It's just my lane to be in. And so I'm excited to be here. But before we get started, we have three panelists, include four total, but three other panelists, including myself. And so we want to give them time to introduce themselves before we hop into tonight's conversation. So we will start with ladies first, and we'll go with Claire.
Hello, everybody. So happy to be here. So my name is Claire Bond, and I'm a personal brand strategist and the CEO of Claire Bond Group. And I help high achieving investors, entrepreneurs, and executives create their best personal brand to develop the authority, influence, and trust they need to increase their visibility, deal flow, and opportunities. So I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you, Claire. Deidre?
Hi, I'm Deidre Wright. I'm a corporate visibility coach, and I help executives and entrepreneurs brand their expertise so they can advance their careers and attract clients, because that's what we want to do, grow careers and basically attract clients organically, meaning for free. So if you're trying to advance your career or attract new clients, then you're in the right place.
Awesome. Jay.
Hi, my name is Jay Mandel. I am your brand coach. Well, I'm not your brand coach, but I am your brand coach. Selecting a good name for Google definitely helps. I was a career corporate guy for about 20 years, and I realized that I didn't want to take significant steps on my own. And during the pandemic, I'm just telling a little story. I gave a webinar on how to market in the pandemic. And at that webinar, I said, you can't say we're all in this together. Mm-hmm. And some guy comes to me after the webinar and he says to me, hey, Jay, I have some questions for you. And I said, tell me. He says, I'm going to start off my campaign by saying we're all in this together. And I said, did you hear a word I said? I need to give you a swift kick in the ass, I said to him. Mm-hmm. And he said, when and how much? And that's how I shifted from being a corporate guy with an entrepreneurial background to a coach. And since then, I've taken on about 100 clients, and I help people to find their voice. So that's my short introduction.
Awesome. And I am Markeith Brayton, native of Nashville, Tennessee, and I am the host of the Maximize Your Brand podcast, as well as I do a lot of speaking around personal branding. And my ideal client is high-level corporate executives who have a desire to transition their expertise into coaching, consulting, or training so that they can create a profitable personal brand business and live the life that they crave. And always excited to help individuals to leverage their expertise and transition that into business. Because my favorite quote, which helped me to start my business, is by the late Dr. Miles Monroe. And he says this, that life's greatest failure is to be successful at the wrong assignment. And I believe it is my calling and my assignment to help others to be on assignment and be profitable while doing it. So excited to be here. So what we're going to do is hop into our questions. We already have some pre-organized questions, but then we'll also have time for everyone to ask their own personal questions so that they can kind of get some insight based around what it is that they need. And so our first question of the night is, what is the value of having a stellar personal brand? What's the value of having a stellar personal brand? Jay?
Can anyone just jump in? Oh.
I mean, you called on me. I'm just going to say this. I saw a post on LinkedIn the other day that showed the difference between Bill Gates and Bill Gates and Microsoft in terms of followers, Tim Cook and Apple in terms of followers, and more people follow Tim Cook and Bill Gates than companies. Companies are companies, and companies used to be a safe place where you could hide behind corporate rules and stuff like that and not say anything to anyone. But if you look what's happening in baseball and look what's happening in basketball and look what's happening in football, gone are the days where a company can be this entity of undefined. The people that work at these companies need to stand for something. The companies need to stand for something. And that is why we have to emphasize personal brands.
Claire?
I completely agree with what Jay was saying. Basically, people want to get behind a person. They don't want to just get behind a faceless entity and a faceless business. One of the biggest things too is that your personal brand can really future-proof your career, can future-proof whatever it is that you want to do. Like you were saying, Markeith, that people want to get out of their corporate world and maybe want to do coaching. It really, what I have found with my own clients is it really opens up a world of opportunities. And sometimes you don't even know what will come to you, but you have to put yourself out there and be out there. And a stellar personal brand, is magnetic. So create a great personal brand. It will magnetize those opportunities to you. And you don't even know what opportunities may come your way because of it.
Yeah.
Deidre, you want to chime in?
Yeah. So for clarity, prior to being a visibility coach, I was a risk management professional. I worked in commercial insurance. So I would help billion-dollar companies figure out risk management solutions, protect their people, their money, and their business. So when I think of it more as managing your risk, which could be a risk is a good or a bad thing happening. It's a chance. And so let's say something negative. I know we're going to talk later about protecting your brand, but let's say there is some slander out there or someone has a misconception about your brand or your reputation. If you already have things in place, breadcrumbs showing your character and your values, it's easy to dispute that. It's like, well, maybe that's a fluke. Let's give them a benefit of the doubt because we know that their values are something different. Also, when you think about the opportunity side, it's an opportunity to be found for your dream opportunities. First thing people do when they hear about you, they're going to Google you. If there's no presence, to me, it's like you seem kind of sketchy. Now, if you want to instill more credibility and trust and get more inbound opportunities, having breadcrumbs about your personal brand and values is an easy way to do that. So it's really about managing the risk of opportunity and bringing it to you, but also in case there is something negative, you have a way to defend yourself.
So good. And, I would just add to the conversation, and that's that people don't do business with organizations, they do business with people, right? And many of us have probably heard that quote before. And at the end of the day, having a stellar personal brand has an opportunity, and here's what I love, to attract the individuals that you want to work with, that you want to serve. I always like to share with my clients the difference between, and this is my particular, definition, between marketing and branding. Your brand should magnetize, it should pull in. Your marketing should push out. And at the end of the day, when you have a stellar personal brand, that stellar personal brand, it encompasses your values, it encompasses your priorities, it encompasses your work ethic, it encompasses how you show up. And based on all of those things, you attract individuals who say, I think I would love to work with her. I think I would love to work with him. And then no matter whether it's a career opportunity or an entrepreneur opportunity or small business, your personal brand has an opportunity for you to pull in the people that want to do business with you. There's nothing worse than having a business filled with clients and or customers that you don't like to work with.
That's true. And I'll just say, it's a long game.
Yeah.
I don't expect anyone to call me tomorrow and say, Jay, I heard you on this webinar and I want to work with you, or any of us. What happens is when you plant these seeds or the breadcrumbs and you put them out there, these things start to happen 3, 6, 9 months, and you don't even know what it is you did other than build that brand to bring those things in. It's not the ad I placed on Google or the thing I wrote on LinkedIn that one time. It's the holistic view into the brand that starts to materialize.
I like that. And, you know, how do you all define personal brand? I know I have my own way that I define it, and I'll share that, but I'd like to hear, do you all have your own definitions for personal brand? I know that there's a general perspective, but how do you define it? I'll share mine. So I define personal branding as one who's in alignment with their true purpose on full display. That you have the ability to align with the thing that you're called purpose to do, and then you put it on full display for the world to see. That's my definition of true personal branding.
I would say I'm pretty simple. I'm very direct and very bold. That is my personal brand. And so I keep things simple because that's what I find that high performers are. They just want simple things. I say reputation, like, because people ask me, Deidre, what's personal branding? I'm like, reputation. So people say I don't have one. I'm like, don't you have reputation? Yes. Well, then you got a personal brand. So think about it that way. And whether you manage it proactively or let it just slide by and be whatever you want it to be, that's your prerogative, but you have reputation.
I also think that it's really what anyone thinks about you, whether it's in person, when they meet with you, how you talk, how you are with people. So it's in person, it's on Google, your blog, videos, everything. I think it's just your omnipresence. It's what really people really think about you. What's their gut reaction? Do they like you? Do they want to work with you? Do they want to give you that opportunity, or do they want to like be repelled? So, because sometimes people's personal brands are like repellent. I've known people like that. So you don't want one of those personal brands.
It's true. And when you're a college professor and you read your end of semester reviews, half the class will probably love you and half the class will hate you. And in my mind, that's not hate, that's a strong word. But in my mind, I've done my job because I'm not here to make everyone say, I love Jay. My personal brand or how I define a personal brand, it's different for everyone. But I start with two things, core values. Mine are candor, curiosity, and collaboration. And I added continuous learning because I had to put another C. That would be good for you, Claire. Candor is the most important of my core values, and it defines everything I say and do. So if I say something that may feel abrasive to you, I know that it's coming from a place of candor, but not everyone knows that. And that might be the measure for whether someone is a fit for me. So what am I saying? I'm saying that defining your core values is the first step to defining your brand. The second thing that I do with clients to help them define their brand is the simple marketing promise. And that's straight out of Seth Godin. My product is for people who believe. I'll focus on people who want. And I promise that engaging with what I make will help you get. So if you have your core values, that's about you. And if you have your simple marketing promise, that's about what you're giving to someone else. And it reflects your core values. And it also reflects who you don't want to work with. And those two things will allow, they're your barometer to decide what opportunities will I take, what won't I take, et cetera, et cetera.
And that's so good because it helps to lead us into the next question. And that is, what are the characteristics of a healthy personal brand? A healthy personal brand. What characteristics, Claire, do you say are healthy characteristics?
I mean, when I really define a personal brand, I think of it, I'm big marketing background, so I like to kind of think of it in this omni-channel approach. And when someone currently has an issue and they're looking for their person to help them with whatever issue they have, ideally, a great personal brand will show up when the time is right. You'll do a Google search. You'll do a search on YouTube. video will pop up and you'll go, wow, I want to work with Claire, or, you know, whoever it is, right? Because you solved a problem that they're currently having. Even if they don't decide, I want to work with you right this minute, they're going to follow you, they're going to subscribe, whatever it is, and they're going to stay connected. That's a great personal brand to me.
Deidre?
Yeah, so I take all my clients through my signature 4-step process because I like steps and processes, and then it's easy to remember. And so this is how I judge it, because everyone has different goals. Like, I've worked with people who are attorneys, risk management professionals, cannabis dispensary or owners, artists. I work with a lot of people with different goals, and it's really, I like the variety. So I'm like, no matter what you want, have these 4 steps. So 1 is clarity, defining success on your terms. So you know what the end goal is, so you're actually satisfied with the goals. Just because you're famous and knows not mean you're happy. So you got to really be clear about what you actually want to obtain. 2 is credibility. Gaining value, gaining confidence in your value. 1, know your value and worth, and then be able to communicate it clearly so others know to come to you correctly. 3 is network. So you're finding success supporters. Don't try to be everyone's friend or solution. Who are the top 3 networks or audiences that are going to really root for you or refer you opportunities? And lastly is branding. So the last thing is branding, period, point blank, period. And that's really about building your VIP reputation. So once you understand what you want to do, what you're bringing to the table, who do you want to meet, now you can figure out your distribution channels. Is that social media? Is that podcast? Is that, videos? Is that TV? I don't know. You're going to have to figure that out based on your ideal client. But having those 4 things, clarity, credibility, network, and brand, will get you right in type of your personal brand.
That's really good. And, when I teach a class on social media here at Sacred Heart University, I don't cover tactics till the end. I barely cover tactics. It's all about messaging and understanding your audience and understanding what you believe you can bring to the table for them. And the cool thing about the process that I follow, which is probably the same as yours, just with different names and stuff like that, is that I follow that process whether I'm doing a project for a big entity in my brand consulting work, whether it's a student project, or whether it's a personal brand for an individual. I think, Marika, I think what you said about sort of knowing who you want to serve and how you want to show up, I think that's probably the most important thing about knowing what your personal brand is, and knowing and getting that feeling that this is not a person I want to be working with, because we've all had those experiences. I tend to not do well with people who have a fixed mindset. Like, we could go through my process, and if your goal is to just get another corporate job and not do the discovery and the digging into yourself, it's not going to be a fruitful experience for you working with me. But if I could see, and I could tell that within 2 minutes of an introductory phone call, but do I always act on it? It's hard. So the question becomes, like, if you know yourself well enough to sort of identify where are the right people to go and seek out, and then identify from a personal level that, there are certain people that are going to thrive. I tend to be the coach's coach. I learned that about myself, and I help coaches not only in coming up with their message, but also figuring out how they're going to get some business. That's something that I discovered. And if someone comes up to me and says, hey, I'm a landscaper, or hey, I'm a barber, yeah, it's probably not going to work out. It's not going to be fruitful for you. Like, I don't know much about barbering anyway, but like, I could probably figure out how to do stuff with you, but that's not why I'm in it. And you probably will sense that. And that's the measure of a true brand, if you could really sort of walk the walk and talk your talk.
So good. So good. That discovery piece is so important. And I know my process, which I call the shine process, is really more all about discovery, and the implementation comes to the end. The S in shine is, what's your significance? What do you believe your significance is to the world, to the marketplace? And then the H in shine is, what is it that you need to hone? We all have a gift, whether we believe it or not. We all have a gift, something that comes easy to us but hard to other people. And I believe that your gift is very important to your personal brand, because it is the thing that you can leverage and use to create opportunity for yourself. The I in shine is, what inspires you? What cause will you have that you are going after, that you solve for other people? Because other people have pain points. We have challenges. We have things that we want to do that we can't seem to get to. So what inspires you to solve that problem? What is it that gets you up in the morning and makes you excited to go out and go do? The N in shine is that you have to have an attitude of never giving up. Never giving up. It's going to be challenges where somebody says that they thought you did this, or this was the service that you provide, but yet you know that you have tried to create a brand around a particular thing and it just doesn't seem to be working. But can you have an attitude of never giving up? And then the E is to exploit everything that you've discovered so that people can connect to you from that point. And so having a healthy personal brand of discovery is so important to the foundation of having something that's successful. Anybody else?
To build on what you're saying, is part of building a successful brand is to invent something like Shine, or to Deidre, to invent your process. We all have invented processes, and we're all gonna talk about them, and they're all gonna be equally impressive. But the reality is that if what you're saying isn't memorable and repeatable, and if people don't want to engage with what you're putting out there, then you're talking to yourself. And so when I hear Shine, I'm like, okay, I'm sure you've written a blog post about it. I'm sure, like I want to engage. I want to exploit. I don't want to exploit, but I mean, in a positive way, you know what I'm saying? And so not being afraid to create is the sign of finding your voice, because you can't come up with Shine if you haven't shined yourself.
Wow. Can I add something? Yes. Because a reason why I was so excited about this opportunity, because I get to be on the stage with 4 personal brand experts. And I want to make sure anyone out there watching to be very clear about part of this understanding personal brand, understanding what makes you unique, and not being intimidated or feeling like you have a lack thereof, so you can't share the stage with other experts in your field.
Yes.
To me, I'm like, I got people who can refer me clients because I see Jay doesn't want my ideal client, and I know I can refer ideal clients that I don't prefer to Jay. And so I say that because I think a lot of us get into, well, one, imposter syndrome. I don't have value. 2, I have competition. I got to outdo the competition. No, you got to outdo yourself, because the competition don't care about you. They care about themselves. And 3, like, don't feel threatened. And I would say reach out and try to collaborate with people. You see that doing something similar to you, but just think like, what is my unique value proposition? There's a lot of copycats right now, which I think is great to be inspired. But lean into your strengths, because if you lean into your strengths, you'll find your kind of people. If you're trying to be somebody else, you're going to not find your people, and you're going to be unhappy.
I completely, I completely agree with that. That's like one of the biggest things that I always talk about is you need to define what makes you unique. And if there is no competition, should you really be in that space? That's the problem. I'm very, very I definitely come from, my process is like super analytical. I'm a New Yorker and things like that, and we cut to the chase. So again, those are the people I magnetize to me. They're like, I have no bullshit. I have no here it is. I'll give it to you straight. And the executives and people that I kind of magnetize to me most of the time I'm literally going like, I know that you've got 20 things that you can do, but let's like focus it. So a lot of times I'm not on the discovery of like who they are. They already know that there are these 80 things. It's like, let's figure out what we need to focus on to get your visibility, and then build on that. What are the things that people really know you for? And one of the things that that a lot of my clients will say is that even if they have amazing resumes and have gone to amazing schools, a lot of times they're too shy. Or like you mentioned, the limiting beliefs, they don't want to be out there and doing this. So to tell everybody here that's listening, it is hard. It is not one and done. You have to put in the work and to get an amazing personal brand. And yeah, if you have those limiting beliefs that are kind of getting in the way of you doing it, yeah, you need to like get somebody to be your champion to help you get over those, because they are not serving a purpose.
Sorry to interrupt, but an accountability coach. And so I have my curriculum and we go through it week by week, and that's great. But at a certain point, a lot of times you don't push yourself hard enough, or you might give up on yourself if you don't know that a week from today, I have to show up in front of my coach and present something. And by the way, he or she may not accept what I'm presenting as the final deliverable. Do you think that in my core values coaching that someone comes to me and says, "Oh, Jay, here's my first draft of the core values," and I say, "Great." Never, not once have I ever accepted someone's core values as the final product. Now, I'm not saying that I'm discounting what you're saying. What I'm saying is, when someone comes to me and says, one of my core values is family, I say, great. It's nice that you love your family. So do I. And so does everyone else. But is that how you define yourself? Or do you define yourself by the attributes and the characteristics and the values that you convey to your children? Family, to me, is empty. But if you say curiosity and you teach your children curiosity, that's a lot more powerful. And so having a coach allows you to sort of hone in and be accountable to deliver on those results. I'm sure, Claire, that there are many opportunities where like people are come forth and they may be a CEO at a really, really big company that we all respect and this and that, but what you can bring to this individual from that sort of like taking their brand forward, it's not inherent to them, right? So
such a good conversation. Excuse me. So we do have a question in the Q&A, and I think it goes well with the next question I was going to ask anyway. And Danielle Vidi, I believe, says, where do you draw the line for what should be uploaded to the internet for the world to see? What topics should you avoid? And the question that I was going to ask all of us to address anyway was, how can a personal brand be damaged? Can a ruined reputation be repaired?
If my posts are all about candor, curiosity, and collaboration, and continuous improvement, every single one of them. And the ones that are about candor are the ones that cause the most damage to my personal brand. When I question something with good intentions and the person who wrote it doesn't have the capacity to receive the message. And so emotional intelligence is absolutely critical. But I'll tell you something. I am not interested in making everyone happy with my brand. And when I put something out there, I usually have made a deliberate decision to say what I'm going to say, with the understanding that if someone comes at it and says, I totally disagree with you, it's an opportunity to engage in a dialogue. And sometimes those dialogues are more fruitful than saying, rah, 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 I agree with you. So there are plenty of things that and plenty of rules that on the things that you should say and you shouldn't say and you should avoid or whatever it may be. But ultimately, you shouldn't avoid certain topics if it's going to take away your soul. So I would err on the side of sort of defining who you are and saying, am I comfortable? And using that as your measurement for what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with sharing.
So good. Claire, you're from New York, so I know you.
Well, personally, I believe you should stay on brand, stay in your own lane. I do believe in that. So I think that you need to know who your audience is and know who you're talking to and know what they want to hear. And that's how I choose to be. I know a lot of people that I work with. A lot of times they're questioning, like, do I share private information about myself and how forthcoming should I be? And it really just depends on how you feel. A lot of people don't want to share information about their kids. Totally understand that. There's a lot of creepers out there. So I think keeping your private information private, I personally don't think there's anything wrong with it. If you are going to speak up, realize that that impacts your personal brand. And if that is something that you want to do, then go for it. But realize that it could impact your personal brand. And, you know, if you're questioning it, then maybe you need to think about it, but always stay on brand and know your audience.
And I think this is why the discovery piece is so important, so that you know what it is that attracts your audience to you. There are very varying different types of personal brands. And, you know, I know that a lot of my clients say, you know, I was attracted to you because you're a professional, you speak well, you seem to operate in excellence, and you seem to be very organized. And I need somebody like that. Now, however, on the flip side of that, I struggle with that piece because I'm like, I'm not really all that type A, but if that's what I'm attracting, right? If that's where my business is coming from, until I make an intentional effort to shift my personal brand to be not so organized and not so type A, then I need to, you know, continue to move in that vein in order to have a successful business. However, the great thing about personal branding is that you can take your audience with you. Some may fall off when you make this shift. You know, some may say, oh, he's not really who I thought he was anymore. Well, but just like some people may fall off, some people may be gained from this shift. But you have to make sure that you understand and know what you are doing, what you want to represent, what your values are, and then also communicate to your audience, communicate to your people when you're ready to make a shift and what you're going to be shifting to, so that they are aware of whether or not they want to continue with you or they want to leave you at the point of your pivot. Deidre?
Yeah, so I'm all about either taking risk or managing risk and doing both. So where do you draw the line on what should be uploaded on the internet? Obviously, you got to manage your privacy and what you're doing. I mean, besides the branding stuff, it's like, to Claire's point, there are creepers, there are scammers, there are Joanne the scammers out there. If you see things on Twitter like, tell me what your elementary school teacher name was, they're probably going to use that to take your bank information. So don't post that stuff because you want to be trendy. Be strategic. So in regards to hot topics or yourself, the first step we talked about, discovery, clarifying your goals and success for you. You got to be clear on who do I want to be and where do I want to go. Now, there's different brands, different ways to do things, but if you want to be on a board member of a conservative company, you got to think about that. That's a long-term goal. I want to be in paid boards, and I want to be in paid boards in conservative industries. Well, then you're going to have to act like that and play the role. I'm sorry, we don't want to see you smoking hookah. We don't want to see you do certain things. And that's on you if you want to do that. And I'm not shading you, but just thinking about that. Now, if you want to be the girl next door or guy next door and you're always stuffed up in a suit, doesn't really make sense. We want to see you casually out, living life, going on strolls, sipping some wine with your family. We want to see you. And I want to talk about this really point, because like I said, prior to what I'd done, I worked in corporate, I worked in risk management, and then I worked within the risk management industry at working for Industry Magazine, heading their Diversity Inclusion Institute. So I would help book speakers for events. I would speak nationally. I've been in magazines and whatever. And I want to be clear about this. We need representation of people on different topics. If you're someone who's the only in their field in a certain role and you're not speaking out about stuff, it looks kind of awkward for your brand to be about equality. You're not speaking out about this stuff. And I say this because I've seen these gurus say, don't talk about these hot topics. Well, when my identity is under question, my rights to vote, my rights to live and whatever, then I have the right to talk about that's about my brand. I've had trolls because I spoke on a South African news about the election. I had trolls who talked about that. And I was like, well, this is my brand, so I'm going to talk about it. I had a client who was talking about different things with racial discrimination. She actually happened to be a social emotional learning educator and a diversity, equity, inclusion professional. Her quotes got picked up and she got quoted in the New York Times. It worked out for her, but that's her brand. So like I said, if you want to have a conservative reputation, act conservatively. If you don't do that, but be very intentional, because you're going to get haters either way. So it's up to you. Like, do I want to defend my values, or do I actually want to suffer by being silenced and being who I am?
Yeah, and this goes right back to what we talked about in the beginning, which is now companies that stand on the sidelines are being left behind. So if you decide that I'm not going to talk about politics, like the stuff that's happening right now around Atlanta and voting and the active voice that companies are having and to change policy potentially is there's a deliberate choices that they don't really have a choice, to be honest. They have to speak up. I just want to state something else. I posted something. I post lots of things on LinkedIn. Some things hit, some things don't, and that's part of the game. But I posted an article that was in the New York Times with a comment. The article was about a woman who went to work at Google and was sexually harassed. You may have seen it the other week. And I posted it, and she basically said, I always felt like my corporate job was my family until I realized it wasn't. And I will never look at a corporate job again as being my family. And I posted that, and I didn't think anything of it. And then I went to sleep, and I had 23 likes. And, that's okay. It's more than usual in 12 hours from the point I posted it to the point I woke up. But I'm wondering to myself, why is it that all these people that are largely corporate, from my days at, when I was working at MasterCard or IBM or whatever it may be, why is it that all these people that are experiencing corporate America liked it? Now, they didn't write these big essays to say, the reason why I like this is because of blah, 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 blah. But isn't it interesting that there was something that was said in that article about the feeling of sort of like, quote unquote, selling your soul to the corporation that spoke to people that happen to be working in corporate America, which goes to say that maybe a lot of people who may or may not even think that they have something to explore about what they stand for and what they won't stand for need our services as coaches, right? To sort of hone in. I had a client come to me who literally had the same experience as me, the same experience I had at MasterCard 7 years ago. She had been at MasterCard for 7 years. She wanted to figure out what was next. And we worked together to figure out what was next from that experience. And it was like a really beautiful thing to sort of steer that process. So there's a lot of things below the surface that haven't bubbled up for people, but there are lots of hints that we could figure out to figure out if we want to act on these things.
I was going to say one more thing on that, Jay, that, my first job in New York, I completely learned that no one's taking care of number one, only me. The corporate world doesn't care about me. I am barely a number. And it's why I'm on, been an entrepreneur for so long, because yeah, it's really hard, but at least I have my integrity. At least I have my values. At least, the people I choose to work with, I care about, and they care about me. Because I just feel like, yeah. So I applaud the people that said, yay, I agree with this being that corporate doesn't have your back. I mean, I know in this day and age, it doesn't exist. And that's why it is so important to work on your personal brand, because you don't know what the future holds. So keep it wide open. Take care of number one. Always take care of number one.
I thought I found myself in an emergency. My mouse had died and I was muted, and I was like, "Oh no, I can't unmute myself."
You're saying you're talking too much. I'm going to just say something else. In the event that your mouse was it didn't work, I just want to say that the lifestyle that we on the panel have created for ourselves is an insurance policy for our lives. Mm-hmm. If you are employed by one entity and someone else that's more senior to you screws up, you get laid off, and it has nothing to do with anything you did. Most of the jobs that I've had in my corporate career, I did just fine, but there were other decisions that were made that had nothing to do with me that really affected my ability to to make moves in the organization or get my 2% raise, even though the company's doing really great. So the thing that I want to say is that I am here as a professor. I am a personal brand coach, and I am a consultant with the Association of National Advertisers, and I do brand workshops for teaching the same principles. And I do consulting for mid-sized entities. Now, you may say that's random and that's all over the place, but it isn't, because I do the same exact thing across every one of them. And there will be some months where I'm burning on all cylinders and I'm at the, I can't do any more. And there'll be other months where I'm like, okay, I'm taking on this new initiative at school and I'm focused more on that. And the client load is a little bit lower on the brand coaching. And so it's a diversification for your life and for your career. And it allows me to go to yoga from 9 to 10:30 this morning as well.
Yeah, that's so good. So good. And so we have maybe about 15 minutes left, and there are a couple of more questions that I think are important for us to get to. The next one is, how do you start? So we've talked about some foundational things. We've talked about some of the in-depth pieces to building your personal brand. But if there's somebody who's listening who haven't really gotten started, how do you start creating a brand identity that will benefit your business and your goals? Where do you start?
I told you my process. I put that stuff on everything. It's like Frank's Red Hot sauce. It's like that. So I say that again: clarity, credibility, network, and brand. I think the most vital thing, I tell everybody, understand the return on investment. Understand what the goal is. Do not say yes to anything if it's not going to benefit you. Sorry. And I say that because it's free versus pay versus this versus that. Well, if it's going to put you further towards your goal, whether it's on the career side or business side, good. If it's not, you have to evaluate that. Is it worth your time? And I honestly have the mentality that I would rather be wealthy and give money, as a philanthropist, than be broke and is giving my time willy-nilly. So you got to be strategic about what are you trying to do with your brand, your reputation. And also, I think another thing people don't talk about is knowing what to say no to and when to say no, and being okay with saying no. Because something's going to compromise your values, or does it make any sense anymore? For example, like I said, I worked in corporate. So I'm known for my insurance career, my diversity career, and now my personal branding. So I get pulled in different directions because I planted seeds early on. So people still ask me for insurance and diversity talks and whatever. So I say that because I'm at the point now where I'm like, I'm trying to grow my visibility career because I do that. I love that. And that's where I'm at right now, although I can speak to older points. So I do say no to some other opportunities, even if they're big platforms. So I say it's like, be very clear, like, what do you want to leverage your brand for? And what are you measuring success off of? Is that booking sales calls? Is that, hey, I've been asked to speak or on different platforms? Is it leadership position you're getting offered? Like, you got to figure out what to track as a metric. And it might be money, it might not be, but if you don't have a quantification of the value, like, then why are you doing it? And I'm on LinkedIn. Connect with me at Deidre Wright. You see my name because I give out tips and all things like that. And I talk about this from a point of view of I started personal branding because I couldn't transition careers back into marketing when I was in insurance. I tried, couldn't. Started talking on LinkedIn. I had my first viral LinkedIn post, 22,000 views. Was able to ask the CEO of our US and Canada division to comment on that because it was blowing up. He did. And 1 month later, I ended up speaking on the stage at an industry event. I spoke on that about diversity and inclusion. The CEO was in the audience, poached me, got me a new job at a director level, making 25% more money and working remotely before the pandemic. So I'm talking about this is the power of being specific and really detailed about what your goals are about personal branding. So think about the metrics and the ROI before you say yes to anything.
And I would say, you know, and just to kind of simplify my personal process is that I just say start with the gift. And here's why I say that is because I knew beyond of a shadow of a doubt. And some people may say it's arrogance, some people may say it's too much confidence, but I knew beyond of a shadow of a doubt that I could hold my own on any stage as a speaker. That speaking and teaching and standing in before an audience and being able to effectively communicate was my gift. And that 97 to 99% of people have a fear of public speaking, and it wasn't mine. And so I knew that the place that I needed to start was my gift, that what would allow me to use the thing that I most naturally have the ability to do. So I started speaking at high schools and at colleges and spoken at Caterpillar, like some Fortune 500 companies and different things like that, just to leverage the gift that came natural to me. And so I would say that you want to start with the place that you have the most natural inclination to provide value to somebody. And then you can begin to add the pieces to that to build a business around it.
That's right. And you have to start. That's it. So you could wait a couple months to get your website perfect, but guess what? No one's going to your website. You put, people like the website managers these days. You can use Squarespace or whatever. No one is going there. So if you launch on day one and you do a LinkedIn post and maybe a few of the people go there, and then you realize on day two that I want to take this out, and day three I want to add this and do that. You have to iterate, refine, and go. And so the other thing I'll say is that if you put it out there, like I told you the story of how I started. Some guy said something to me. I told him I'm going to charge him because I felt like it was okay. I charged him $275 for like 4 sessions. It was nothing. And then I realized, wow, it's very easy to get people to pay me $275 for a few sessions. I charge $750 for that same workshop these days. And I'm realizing now that if I plot out, to Deidre's point, if I plot out all the types of things that I do, there are certain things that I do that are much more labor intensive and I get much less return on investment of my time. And I did the exercise the other day where I said, okay, this is what I feel I'm worth hourly. This is who my clients are on the brand coaching perspective. These are who my clients are on the commercial consulting perspective. These are the engagements I do for the ANA. These are the courses I teach at Sacred Heart. And then I looked at all those things holistically, and then I plotted out for the next half of the year. This is where I expect to spend my time. And understanding that there's only 24 hours in a day, and I don't believe that you should work 24 hours. I mean, you could work 12 hours, and as I said, I could be working now, or I could be working at 6 a.m. I could work whenever I want. But ultimately, what I'm saying is, to Claire's point, like you really need to sort of like plan and figure out where all the where you're going to focus your energy, and you got to be on brand. And so you need to figure that out. Like what is your swim lane? But you can push something out there and continually refine and iterate, and know that like it will come. And then if you're planning, then that's even more specific than planning to the core values. It's saying, okay, well, I plan that 75% of my time is to get it dedicated to your brand coach, and it looks like only 32 is. So what kind of adjustments do I need to make sure that I'm utilizing my assets to their potential?
Before you go, Claire, I know Deidre
I wanted to ask a question. Oh, sorry.
I know Deidre has to leave a little early. So if you want to just give your information again real quick so that people can connect with you.
Yeah, thank you, Marquis. Thank you all. I really enjoyed this conversation. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Yes, I got a website. Yes, I got social media, but LinkedIn, it's a great way to be in touch, see who we have in common, and connect and see my tips. So I appreciate the opportunity. Connect with me if you really want to use visibility to grow your career and attract clients, particularly if you want to public speak or if you want to network faster, because time is money and money is time. So I'm happy to be here, and thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
I actually think one of the first most important things is to own your name. I always tell everybody that they need to go get their name, whatever it's going to be, for your website and all your social media handles, because then you put your stake in the ground. You go, okay, this is mine. Now you can't take it away from me. I've got it. Then you do all of the other work of like who I am, what makes me unique, who are my competitors, what are my goals, all of that sort of stuff. But you need to actually put the stake in the ground. I actually believe that your website is the most important thing, because it's something that you own. They can't take it away from you. You can't say something that'll make somebody mad and they'll turn you off. Obviously you can make Google mad, but it's not like YouTube or Twitter or those kind of things. So I think it's super important to own your name, because everyone will Google you. And that's it. You need the information that you want out there to show up when people do a Google search on you. The whole great thing about your personal brand is that you don't need to go and get PR to get on, to own the first page of Google. You can do it yourself. You can own the narrative by creating content and speaking to your ideal audience to be there. And that is the ultimate goal for my clients, is that they want to own their name. When anyone does a search on them, there's not a question of which one is it. It's the only one that they find.
Claire, let me just also say this. I've known you for about a week, and we're connected on LinkedIn, but I looked at your logo, and it is a work of art. I mean, it is so thoughtful, and I see the C and I see the B, and there's probably a story behind it. So the other thing to say, and if you look at mine.
Thank you. Yes. I'm all about the look and feel. I'm about everything. Look, feel, everything. Yeah.
Based on your background and how you present yourself here. By the way, I'm a New Yorker too, so so we could probably.
I could tell by your accent.
Jersey, but nevertheless, we should meet up after this. But let me just say this: that it's not just the story that you put forth in words; it's the story in. What is that thing in back of you? Why is the blue that you're matching? What is it? It's a dog, or it's a balloon?
Yeah, dog? it's a balloon dog. Yeah. No, it's everything. It's what I was mentioning before. Your omnipresence. It's everything. Everything. But if you own your name, it's how you present yourself. It's how you do your makeup. It's the shirt you wear. Yeah, it's everything. I completely agree.
The point is that I look at you. I look at the color of your sweater. I look at the dog in the background. I look at the decisions that are made about the books and the camera in the background. And I look at your logo, and it makes me think of a client that I had. Her name is Allison Rayfield, and she told me that she's a coach, and she told me that she likes to capture. So we create a mood board as part of our process. And in the mood board, they had all these pictures that she created. And we thought of this idea that, and she said, not all those who wander are lost, and all these different statements about sort of travel and discovery and photographs and stuff like that. And she built her brand around those photographs. And not only did she create web copy around the art of taking photographs, but she created a process that talks about foresight and hindsight all around that photography. So yes, you have to own your brand. Yes, you have to own your name. Yes, you have to write things that are good. But the little things, Marquette, the background, the subtle purple in the background, the lighting that you talked about, the fact that your microphone isn't in the screen. These are all things that are make or break. And it might not be make or break for everyone, but like there are plenty of people that will post a stock photograph with the watermark on it. What does that say about you? And how did and there are some very successful people that do that. So it's like these little things that we all can do that allow us to tell our stories without even, you don't have to say a word, Claire. And
yeah, thank you. What's interesting is I really feel like I learned a lot in New York, just like I went to UT Austin and then I moved to New York and that was my first job. And I remember somebody told me about emails. Whenever you send an email, think about the fact that it could be on a billboard. So that's so true with your brand, because if you're going to put horrible things in an email, would you want that to be your personal brand? So really anything you put out there, how is it representing you in the space, even when you walk into a room? So yeah, there's so many things that deal with your personal brand, but it's literally how people think, what they think about you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely right. And when you speak of my lighting, I bet you that everybody can walk away and know what my brand colors are.
That's right.
Right. And so I think that it all is encompassing of a brand. And I know that we are coming up on our hour, and I just want to get this one last question in, Antoine, and not to go past our hour, but what are some effective, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Marquis.
What are some effective ways to promote and grow your brand while keeping your audience engaged? And so if you could just give your top 2 tips of effectively promoting your personal brand, and then we'll close out and let Antoine come back in. And I'll start. So as I stated earlier, I'm a speaker, I'm a teacher. And so anytime that I get to use my voice to leverage or to become more visible. And it's so interesting that, I kept hearing this over and over and over again from audiences. And they would always say, it's just something about listening to you that calms me, that makes me want to listen. Like when you enter a room and you say something, you grab my attention that he's about to say something that I need to hear. And I kept hearing it over and over and over again. I was like, well, maybe there's something to this thing. And so, I picked things like podcasting and live streaming because it allowed me to use what I naturally did well. So I would say, if you're comfortable with speaking, yes, podcasting, video, anything that allows you to display your most innate gift.
I'll go next, but one of the things I think you should always share your gifts is a lot of times when people are hesitant to brand themselves, it's sometimes you can think about somebody else could be stealing your thunder if you work based on competition. If you don't, then think about helping people. Just help somebody. I can't even tell you how great it feels when someone will say, you know what, that video you did, it really spoke to me. And, some of the blogs that I do that in videos, limiting beliefs has been one of my biggest ones, as well as imposter syndrome. It's amazing. You just need to share and try to connect and give your gift. And a lot of times they'll keep asking for things. I see so many people that are out there and they're like, I want to share my gift, but I want something in return. I want you to pay me. I want you to do this thing for me. Click this link, sign up here. 80% give, 20% ask when it comes to your personal brand. And if you can ask for less, then ask for less. Give your gift, because that is what will magnetize people to you and those opportunities. If you don't give, you won't get anything.
True. It's true. And I'll just say this. If you don't give, there'll be no opportunity for other people to speak out on your behalf, because no one wants to hear someone saying, oh, I'm Jay Mandel and I'm so great. But when other people say that I help them and I change their life in a few sessions, then there must be something to it. And I'm not like the Chinese restaurant that says, I'll give you a free egg roll and a Coca-Cola if you give me a 5-star Yelp review. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about, people are not going to go out there and just randomly start writing Google reviews. Of course, I'll ask them to write Google reviews. I'll ask them to rank me on LinkedIn. I'll write up something on LinkedIn as well. For them, it's reciprocity. But I don't tell them what to say. And when they say something that inspires someone to, it's just like Marquette, the pattern that you saw about your public speaking. If you do a word cloud of the reviews of all of us on this panel, you're going to start to see things emerge. And maybe those things that emerge, whether they're in the word cloud or they're just from glancing, if they tell you, like, this is the person I need because the things that seem to be emerging, what other people are saying, are the things I need, that's a lot more powerful than saying how great I am.
So awesome. That time went by so fast, but I think each
Marquise,
of you...
we got one. Before you close it out, we have
okay.
one person that wants to ask a question. So I want to allow them to hop on stage really quickly.
Awesome.
Francis, if you want to hop on, unmute yourself and just ask the question. Please.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Great. So I'm looking back at the question that we were talking about in terms of who we are and what we are. And the question I'm asking, hold on a second, is if you stood on a stage naked and everybody looked at you, would you be comfortable in who you are and what you pretend or allege that you are?
I need to do some grooming in order to be comfortable on the, but and a little bit more yoga. But once I do that, I don't know if I would be comfortable. But to be honest with you, that's not what I'm putting out there. I'm not putting out there this whole idea that the impression that you're going to have on me is based on my physical appearance.
It has nothing to do with your physicality. It has to do with, as you manifest your brand, is it the packaging or is it really you? So intrinsically, if you are so comfortable in your own skin that people can see you with no clothes and no packaging, then I think obviously we could go forward. But if you are packaging and presentation as a brand, and I am a professional brander, then behind the scenes, there's another you.
Well, that's true. And so, this is like deep therapy stuff that I'll talk to my therapist about on Friday. But let me just tell you this, that I understand what you're going for in this question. And I will say this, that my ability to help other people and my identity, every day I'm reconciling my identity and having discoveries about my identity. Can I say to you with 100% authenticity that I would be comfortable with what you said? No, not at all. And I don't know who would be, but I will say this, that I am okay with my visceral reaction to that question. And I love the idea of debating and having this discussion with you, because there's obviously something, there's something to what you're saying. And it makes me curious, which is one of my core values, to figure out if there's something that could maybe even get me out of my comfort zone a little bit more, to say, okay, yeah, the answer is yes. But if I went to you and said, the answer is yes, I wouldn't feel authentic. So that's my answer to that one.
That's a terrific answer, because that's exactly the point of it. So that we all have masks and we all present this, and listening to this discussion, it sounds like branding in the classic sense of packaging and branding and product configuration. But earlier in the conversation, when you were talking about core values and so on, that's what stimulated my question of thinking about what would it be like for each of us to stand naked in front of our crowd. If you've ever gone to a nude beach, that's essentially what you're doing. So I might suggest that if we all get ourselves comfortable enough to go to a nude beach, that's essentially what we'd be doing. We're revealing ourselves at core level to our audiences.
Yeah, and that's why I told you that I'm going to therapy. And that's why I'm happy to share those details with my, and this goes to something that was discussed a lot earlier. There was some discussion about, are you comfortable sharing things about your kids? Are you comfortable sharing this and sharing that? I'll tell you something. I am well aware that there are certain things that I haven't figured out personally that I am very qualified to help other people figure out, because I know the buttons to push and when to go in and when to back off. But that doesn't mean that there's something that happens in a lot of the relationships that I have where the burden, something shifts. And if I'm successful as a coach, and this has happened many times, it's a mutually beneficial relationship. And I'm at a certain point with a few of my clients where I'm saying, okay, you have to stop paying me because we're going to be doing business together. And these sessions are as helpful to me as they are to you. Now, I'm not saying that was always the case, but it's the humility to be able to reconcile and respect the people you're working with in order to get somewhere together.
Agreed. Basketball coaches can have winning teams and not ever being able to dribble the ball or shoot the basket. And we can certainly be a great coach with a mask and packaging. I was just referencing back to the early part of the conversation when we were talking about how we feel about how we manifest what our values are. So we could certainly be a fantastic coach, sensitive to lots of folks, and still have unresolved issues deep inside of ourselves that if we stood naked on a stage, we'd know that those were still banging around in our head. So it's not mutually inconsistent. And I think we all share those things. It's just part of sort of the deeper aspects of who we are to our own consciousness.
I love it. And I'm looking forward to connecting with you. And my mother's maiden name is Friedman, but it's Freedman.
Right. I'm on the Upper East Side in New York. We could certainly get together.
So let's do it. 92nd Street.
All right. Thanks, Francis. Oh, sorry.
Claire, we didn't hear your answer to that one.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, I was basically just gonna, I'm sorry.
You don't have to answer it. I was just.
No, I was kind of like mulling it over, and basically, I think I was going to ask what Francis's thought behind the question was, but basically, is it that if you're out there spewing lies when you're naked and you're left with everyone knowing that you've been spewing lies. So there's many ways you can kind of take what he was saying. And that's kind of how I saw it. That's how I interpreted the question. And to a point of like, what do you share? What don't you share? There's a lot that I don't share because I don't think I need to. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's nothing I'm hiding, but I think my personal life is personal. And, there's so much in this whole entrepreneurial space where you're constantly sharing and doing all these things where sometimes you're just like, there's something I need for myself. And, sometimes it's just.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You not need to know when to say when.
Yeah.
And as a person of faith who leverages and uses my faith in my practice, there's a particular scripture I always think about before I share certain things, and it's just a scripture that says that a wise man doesn't build a house without first consulting or considering the cost, right? And so, is it beneficial for the moment? Is there value in what I'm about to say in this particular instance? Les Brown says that it's hard to see the picture when you're in the frame. And so as a coach, we have an opportunity to see the picture while they're in the frame. But then we also have to consider what we're about to say or how we're guiding based on the moment or based on the situation. I also, when he asked that question, initially thought about, another scripture that when I was a child, I spoke as a child, but when I became an adult, I spoke as one who was mature. Well, to stand naked before people means that there's levels of maturity that you have to work through to get to that point. And we all start somewhere. And every dispensation, every age, every year, every decade, we have an opportunity to grow into the person who is willing to say, naked I came into the world and naked I leave, right? And you have Brene Brown, who at some point she just said, you know what, you got to put it all out on the table. And she became a household name because she was willing to be vulnerable and share that. And so I think it's a great question. Antoine?
All right, so let's wrap everything up. If you guys want to just briefly just tell everybody where they can find you.
Ladies first.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So everyone can find me at clairebahn.com, CLAIREBAHN.com, and you will find a plethora of ways to get in touch with me. You'll find all of my social media channels. You can set up a consult if you'd like to get on a strategy session. And thank you so much for having me here.
And you can reach me. You can just search my name, Jay Mandel, on LinkedIn, or jmandel.com, or yourbrand.coach. Same here. The consults that I do are not 15-minute consults. We talk for a long time, as long as it makes sense. And we will determine what the right path forward is. And, I welcome the opportunity to engage with any of you. And, I'd like to thank you, Antoine and Marquette, for hosting and for the opportunity. This was a very fruitful conversation, and a topic like this could get boring, and it wasn't. If we were all just talking heads, just like saying what we had to say, but I think it was a really fruitful, engaging back and forth. So thank you.
And you can find me on all social media platforms, from Clubhouse to Instagram to Facebook to LinkedIn, just by my name, at Markeith Braden, MarkeithBraden. I'd also invite you to listen to my weekly podcast called Maximize Your Brand. I just uploaded a brand new episode this morning, and we're talking about how to become unbusy and more productive, because I think we live in a culture and a society where we have said that busyness is success, and it can be further from the truth. And so you could also download that podcast on Spotify or iTunes. But once again, at Markeith Braden on all social media platforms.
Thank you, Markeith, and thank you to the rest of the panel, Claire, Jay, and Deidre. She had to leave early, but thank you guys for an excellent conversation. I'm here to learn as well. I love having these events because I'm here to learn, and it's great to have panelists who are very experienced, experts, and can really teach you about subjects that everyone needs to know in business. So I want to sincerely thank the panelists again for joining us for a fantastic session. And I want to thank the attendees as well for coming. Someone put in the comment box, is this going to be replayed? So this is going to be put onto our website soon. Go on our website at www.networkingwp.com. We will put all of our videos on the website sometime soon. So be on the lookout for that. Also, follow us on LinkedIn, Networking with Purpose. Follow us on LinkedIn so you can keep up to date on our events. We have a lot of great events coming up this year for 2021. Some networking events, networking with founders, a lot of different things where we can learn and kind of grow with each other and have conversations with each other. So again, thank you guys for this great conversation. Thanks for listening and learning with us today. Please wear your mask, social distance, continue to wear your mask and social distance, and have a safe and productive rest of your week. I hope to see you guys at the next event. Goodbye, everybody.